Ubisoft has a ton of projects in the works right now, most of them being related to Assassin's Creed. The Watch Dogs franchise kicked off back in 2014 and was intended to be a more high-tech version of GTA, but it was met with controversy right from the start due to some massive downgrades that happened between the E3 demo and the launch. Perhaps if the first game's marketing hadn't been handled so poorly and if that initial E3 demo wasn't so controversial, then the franchise would have been a smash hit, but despite Ubisoft's best efforts, Watch Dogs has never really been able to hit the same kind of financial success as other open-world sandboxes, and a number of trusted reports have claimed that the third game, Watch Dogs Legion, actually failed to meet Ubisoft's financial expectations, which is probably why we haven't heard much of anything about a fourth game. And up to this point, I actually thought Watch Dogs was dead as a franchise. I didn't think they were going to follow up Watch Dogs Legion. However, according to a recent leak that popped up on 4chan, not only is Watch Dogs 4 in development, but it's actually going to feature some pretty crazy changes to the formula. Now, take this all with a grain of salt, because obviously it's impossible to know the legitimacy of the leak when it originates on 4chan, but this post came out on December 6th on the Video Games board, and it had some very specific details, so we'll go over the leak and you can decide for yourself what you want to believe about it. The post read like this, quote, "No one believes 4chan anyway, so let me just spill some beans. Watch Dogs 4 is in development, not far along by any means, but the major ideas and key features have been planned out. Ubisoft Montreal is leading development on the series once again. Go Montreal, smiley face. Really wish I could share some of the concept artwork the team has been doing. It all looks very sexy, but the best way I can describe the aesthetic they've been experimenting with is a glitch graffiti effect, with that red and blue blur from old 3D movies. Looks distinct from Watch Dogs 2's art, just hard for me to describe. It has more emphasis on ink spray, paint splatter, and graffiti bubble lettering, most things black and white / monochrome, but outlined with that 3D blur. It all fits Watch Dogs very well, I'm a fan. The title may change, of course, but people seem pretty set on Watch Dogs Anomaly, and are pushing for Ubisoft to secure the name. It was Watch Dogs Catalyst at one point. The current story pitch is essentially about the Singularity, aka the rapid uprising of artificial intelligence. Topical, no? Rather than hackers exposing and taking down the corporations, it's more so hackers are the only ones who can put a stop to what the corporations have unboxed. They'll be continuing the darker tone that the first Watch Dogs had, not very comedic like 2, nor a mix like Legion. Some of the protagonist art exploration reminds me of Watch Dogs 1, heavy rain at night with a long sleek coat. They're typically drawn to be vague in gender, usually with a scarf, sunglasses, and beanie, as the plan is to let the player choose between male or female. No name has been decided, but the plan is for a gender-neutral name like Alex or Sam, and yes, both would be fully voiced, just as it was for Assassin's Creed Valhalla. The quote, "play as anyone" mechanic from Legion will not be present in Watch Dogs Anomaly, and the remains of that system will mainly be used for creating more advanced NPCs. The game will be set in modern-day Boston, and plans for scouting are being worked out right now. End quote. Since this post was from 4chan, the leak disappeared a few hours after it was posted, but what do you think about all this? Are these changes that would bring you back to the series, or what if you're one of the people who never really cared about Watch Dogs? Would this get you interested? The art style sounds really interesting to me. The old classic 3D style sounds really cool. That's a style that I think is kind of underrated. You know, when I think of that art style, I think of Spy Kids 3D, or all the really crappy, 3D glasses movies that we had back in the early to mid 2000s, and I think that kind of gives the art style a bit of a bad reputation, when if it was just worked on a little more, like it sounds like Ubisoft is doing here, it could make something really cool and really unique. And I'm also a huge fan of going back to the darker tone of the first game. I think Watch Dogs kind of lost itself when it ditched the darker tone. But let us know your thoughts on this leak down in the comments. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel with notifications turned on so you don't miss any future gaming leaks, and we'll see you in the next one.